So today we're going to talk about the final attachment style, which is disorganized attachment. And this is probably the most complex of all of them because disorganized attachment, it's like a seesaw between avoidant and ambivalent, and often develops when a caregiver or parent who was threatening, scary, or unsafe. Now, I like to use myself in situations where I can because it's safe to do that. I'm not talking about anybody else, and I have the lived experience. So in addition to my knowledge and information on these subjects, I also have had the lived experience, which I do believe enriches it because I can see things from the inside out. So this one is very, very close to my heart, and I understand it because I grew up in a family where, on the outside, if you looked at us, we looked like, sort of the perfect American family. Father had a job, mother was a housewife, stayed at home, older brother, younger sister. We went to good schools, we had great food and comfort and clothing and good educations, lots of friends, social life, all of that. Hmm. But on the inside, things were different. Now, I just want to make this very clear. Whatever I'm about to say is in no way judging or blaming my parents, because my parents did the best they could with the knowledge and the information they had. And I now know, because I've done this work on myself, for myself, that they had a lot of childhood developmental trauma, which I won't go into at the moment, but trust me, they did. And they both left school very young to look after their families and didn't have much of a life themselves. So I forgive them and I have a lot of compassion for them. But what had happened was my father was physically a big man. He was 6'4", big guy, very strong, jet black hair, blue eyes, Hollywood good looks. And I say this because this was a thing growing up. My friends didn't want to come and pick me up or knock on my door because they were terrified that my father might answer because he had this big, booming voice that always sounded angry. These big hands, and these little kids were like terrified of him. But he wasn't threatening in that way, not to them anyway. But that was sort of the persona that he had. So you can see that there was more to it. I felt growing up unsafe, and it took me decades to figure that out because I didn't understand it as a child. And as I said, our brain isn't fully formed till we're about 26. So when you're 4, 3, 2 years old, there's this big man with this big booming voice, and he frequently gets angry and loses his temper and rages. That's scary. And he sometimes smacks you with his hand or a belt because that's how he was raised when he felt that you did something wrong. That's scary. But the most scary part, and this is very much within the disorganized attachment style, is that the person that you fear the most is also the person who is your biggest protector. That's very, very confusing for a child. So this creates a duality of needing the parent for safety while simultaneously fearing them, causing a back and forth shift between avoidant and ambivalent, between turning off the signal, cry completely, and turning it on constantly. So if we use the metaphor of the park again, so there's a child in the park, falls down and hurts itself. And they're met with accusations of not being careful. You stupid child. Why did you fall? They might even get smacked for falling, sent off to a bench to sit, stop crying, pull yourself up, pull your socks up, pull yourself together. Why did you do that stupid thing? So they're berated for something whilst they're in pain. And there's a physical punishment for their misstep. Rather than comfort, they are faced with the situation that the person expected to comfort them becomes threatening. This is very much what happened with my father and I and my brother. He was raised very harshly, and there was a lot of corporal punishment. He didn't carry that on so much, but there was definitely that in my childhood. He got angry. He shouted at everybody in the family. We all walked on eggshells. There was a lot of rage. And the flip side of it is he would do anything for me. He would drive me places, but he couldn't make that emotional connection. So I'm saying this, I'm illustrating this so you can tune into this and see if any of this aligns with you. It may not. But this child in the park who wants somebody to say, "Are you okay?" might get that occasionally from this person, but they'll probably be more than not met with anger and disappointment in them because they didn't do something the way that person wanted them to do it. Now, physical violence isn't always present, but it is frequently present in disorganized attachment. It is very common. And this creates a no-win situation for the child. The source of safety as they perceive safety. The protector, the father, or the mother is also terrifying. And all too often, relationships feel extremely risky. And you'll see this, as you may see this in friends, you may see this in yourself, that you took more and more risk in your relationships as you grew up, with friends and especially with partners, on the edge, knowing that things were unsafe, but getting a thrill out of it. That's just one little aspect of it. So many of the behaviors that lead to disorganized attachment, won't surprise you, are fear-based and leave children with unmet emotional needs, having to rely on unpredictable and unreliable caregivers. Parents may have their own unsolved trauma, and this is what I really began to understand with both of my parents. So this dynamic eliminates the sense of safety necessary to develop healthy attachment as children, which then spills into adult relationships. The desire to connect is a natural human trait. Yearning to please caregivers or parents and the fear of abuse or neglect can both lead to the child becoming overly independent. That was me. Avoidant, that's avoidant. Overly independent, hyper independent. I can do it all myself. And also anxious, ambivalent. That was me during childhood. I was told that I never sat still. I was scared of things. I was, nervous all the time, anxious all the time. And I didn't even know what that meant, but this is what people were telling me that were looking after me. And in this disorganized adaptation, the attachment system that is designed to connect for safety and love is entangled with excessive fear and threat. So we had this Welsh dresser in my kitchen, and on top of it, very high up, I couldn't reach it, there was a strap. There was an old belt without the buckle, fortunately, and all my father had to do was walk near it and look at me and be angry with me. And I relived all of that electrochemical download once again of having been smacked the first time with the belt. And he knew that the threat was there and it was ever present. And you might have even come across this as well. I mean, I would get things like, wait till your father gets home. So that turned my father into this very frightening character. What was my father going to do with me? Whatever it was going to be far worse than what my mother was going to do. Here are some characteristics of disorganized attachment in adults. Adults with disorganized attachment have learned that relationships are scary. And as a result, they associate intimacy with fear while still feeling the urge to connect as an innate human need. Individuals with disorganized attachment may have some or all of the following. So just, go through this list with me and see if you relate to any of this. In cases of physical or sexual abuse, dissociation is common. So the person checks out. There's a lot of checking out. And checking out, I've come to know as a scattered mind, but you may know as ADD or ADHD. Now, I don't necessarily use those terms, not that I don't think it exists, but I think people begin to live to their labels. And I don't think ADHD is a disease. I think it is a set of behaviors that are personality adaptations from childhood. So what the child does, and this is what I did, is I zone out. I go to another place in my mind to stay safe because there may be chaos going on around me, anger and shouting and all kinds of things, but I go into my safe space. Sometimes that's the only safe space you can go to. And you learn this over and over and over again. And you get to a point where you check out easily or you distract easily. You go somewhere else quickly to get away from whatever's going on. You may experience fight, flight, or freeze survival responses in relationships that block intimacy. And that's what I was just saying. You might fight. Now, a small child can't fight, but the child can get very angry and very rebellious, and that can come out as they grow up. So that's their level of fighting. They can't leave. So what they do is they leave in their mind. They distract and do something else. Like that humming when you don't want to hear something. But people with this type of behavior do it in a much more dramatic way. Freeze is a really big one where they're just inert, they're stuck in time. And when I work with a lot of clients, their younger self is frozen in time. And what we do is we go back and release them. We see them, we hear them, we accept them, and we release them and free them up from being stuck in this place. There's a lot of self-absorption and a strong need to be in control. And that I very much relate to. Can't rely on other people to do it, so I'll do it myself. So very hyper independent, which is not healthy. Then you don't know how to ask for help. You don't know how to reach out for help. You don't even accept that help is possible. Okay? There's a lack of presence in relationships where you just zone out again and your partner's going, hello, hello, I've asked you that question 3 times, Michelle. Can you hear me? And you're like, no. Oh, sorry, sorry. What did you say? So we can do a lot of that, and some of it is on purpose, and some of it is conscious, and some of it is unconscious, and a lot of it is unconscious because these are learned behaviors. There can be a lack of impulse control because we've seen that growing up. Very impulsive caregivers, losing their temper, hitting us quickly, being angry with us and eliminating us, ignoring us from their lives in that moment. So we might have learned how to model that behavior. You may have flashbacks or revisit traumatic experiences in memory. And there's a lot of that for me. I don't have a lot of memory of my childhood. Not that I don't have a lot of good memory, I just don't have a lot of memory of my childhood because I zoned out so much and I just exited in my mind. You may have difficulty concentrating or thinking on a timeline about the past. So it's not very organized. So some people have this kind of timeline. That's the future, that's the past, this is the present, or it goes this way: past, present, future, or past, present, future. Some of it is cyclical. Well, and for me, it's all over the place. I might have this one from time to time, I might have this one from time to time. Very, very confusing. You may be easily startled or alarmed. Definitely me. If you drop something or there's a loud noise outside, I will definitely be one of the main people in the room that will jump. You go, oh, what was that? I hate it. I don't want to be like that. And I really work on it. But that is just a muscle memory that I have because that was my response to, you know, shouting, loud voices, anger. I froze. I got scared and I just waited for it all to be over. Just I'll stay in the space until it's all over. Constant vigilance for danger or shifts in mood. People disorganized attachment will have a lot of hypervigilance. And they may say, oh, but I'm just so empathic that I'm really in tune with everybody's mood in the room or what people need. Not always. There may be some empathy in there, but most times it's hypervigilance. Because remember, humans are not in the first instance looking for happiness, they're looking for safety. So hypervigilant people are looking for safety everywhere, all the time. And these people can appear to be checked out. Yeah, and I was very much like that. I've done a lot of work on myself in this arena. And I'm happy to say that, well, navigating relationships and intimacy feels like dangerous territory for people like us. But progress is possible. And I'm happy to say that I'm in a much more secure, attached relationship than I've ever been in my life because it is possible to change because you learn this. You weren't born this way and you can unlearn it. We have neuroplasticity and we can unlearn these things. I hope this has helped. There'll be a lot more on this as we go along because this is the core of healing, is the awareness of what we're doing and how we're responding to the world so that we can become accepting of it, more conscious of it, and ultimately make better choices. Thank you for coming on this journey with me today, and I look forward to seeing you soon.